Hello and welcome to Quinville. I'm Mars Stanham and you're watching Mars Plays, where today we're going to be doing something different from what I'd planned originally. If you were with me last time around, you'd remember that I promised we'd do something with the open space at the end of the new promenade, and we absolutely will, but before we can do that, we have to do something a bit more pressing. We have to save the city. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to get into my old predilections. You see what's going on. We've got these commercial nodes, buildings that are saying not enough goods to sell. And it's some of them are getting critical, some have already been abandoned for that reason, which, of course, is not great. And it started doing this at the tail end of the last episode, and letting it run a little bit, it just gets worse and worse until it doesn't kill the city outright, but it certainly kills our commercial demand, and just it's not great. So we got to fix this before we go any further. Now, there's a few reasons this is happening. I've been spending a lot of time doing my research on this and on how the game works and everything. So one thing to note. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought this jobs available was the jobs available and open and unfilled right now, but that's not true. The jobs available minus people employed would get you your total number of jobs currently open. That's the total number of jobs in the city, not the open jobs. So our unemployment is very low, it's very good, but the problem is if you look at our export import here, total import 14,263. Export 6,343. That's a huge difference. And the biggest problem isn't even in the base number. It's the fact that there's no goods going out. Hardly at all. And we need to fix that. Or at least we need to fix the discrepancy. Look at how much of this import is goods rather than products to feed the industrial zones, that sort of thing. So one of the main reasons that we're having this issue now and we weren't before is visible here in our city statistics. Need population. I want to go down to zones. So let's look at our commercial zones. Of course, you've seen over the course of the city it's gone up. It's kind of just hung around at this 15,000 level. And then we did some work in that area last video. There's a lot of heavy or high density commercial that we zoned in that strip, and you can see that in the big spike here. Something else that we've done recently with moving industrial stuff around and clearing some things out, at the same time as this starts going up, this is going down, which is not a good combination because it's those industrial zones, along with outside sources, of course, that feed our commercial zone. Not the best thing to have the source go down while the demand goes up. So I've got several solutions. I mean, since we know what's causing it mostly, there's some ideas on how to fix it. One thing I'm going to point out is this seems to be running fine right now, but it doesn't stay that way if I let this go too much longer. Trying to import to the whole city, and this is the only source of import for any cities to the east, because the rail network doesn't connect up. It just goes right into that one passenger station. That's the only connection for this rail line from the east side of the city. I guess southeast. So this really gets overworked here, and the traffic gets really awful. Can't do anything about it. So I need to tie that rail line in. Also, another big problem that we run into, the mail system in this game, especially the sorting facilities, they love these big old trucks. And they're practically empty. Every single one of them. They launch this massive truck that it takes up a lot of space on the road. and they're almost all empty. So I'm going to remove those from the build. I'm going to unsub them off camera, but for right now, I'm just going to go into the advanced vehicle options, find the postal traffic, postal service, here we go. And I'm going to not allow that to spawn. I want them off my roads. So I'm going to get rid of them. And then from now on, it will give us much more reasonably sized vehicles to transport this stuff around. Most of the stuff coming from the docks will be in this international box truck, which will be absolutely fine. So that should be a big improvement for us. First thing I'm going to do while we work on this, and then I will let this play, because some of this stuff is going to take a while to do anything. We have a policy set in the city for education boost, and it's set across the entire city, not just in a certain area somewhere. Here it is. Which makes me wonder if I turned it off camera and saved this, because I know for sure that this was turned on citywide. Not something that we want. Talking to some other players who've run into the not enough goods issues, what this can do is it makes it so everyone is highly educated and they don't want to work in your industry, which presumably lowers the industrial production. So we're going to get rid of that as a citywide thing. We do need some still, because we definitely need some highly educated people to work in certain areas. So I'm going to come down into the downtown area, and I'm going to turn this on. I think that makes sense, to have these areas as, you know, highly educated people. And then I'm going to leave some of that off, and I'm also going to come over here to University Heights. You'd think this would be like a major university area feeding this place, that you'd have a lot of students living in these neighborhoods. So to me, it makes sense to turn that on. I could probably do the same at Atacapa, but I don't want to overload the city with education like we were doing before. So now on to the physical changes. Like I said, I want to let this run so that education stuff starts to take effect. And then we'll watch what happens with the city as we work here. I talked before about maybe getting rid of the substation for the rail line. That wasn't necessary, but it certainly isn't necessary for the city here. So let's get rid of that. And I'm going to replace it with a little bit more of a import thing here. I want to try and pull in those commercial goods off of the rail network right here. So we're going to put that on fill. And it's not going to fill up, but hopefully it will get some amount of storage in it. I'm just hoping it's an additional draw. Next thing we're going to do, and this is going to cause us some disruption. Okay, I need to come into here, into districts. I'm also going to turn that on so I can see it as I see the effects as I do this. We're going to turn on the specialization for office zone to IT cluster. IT cluster is really cool in that it, well, first the buildings look different, which are awesome, so you can kind of customize an area, and that's how I was using it before. But doing some research, normal office zones don't produce goods. All they are workplaces for your citizens, which is great. But it also keeps our industrial demand really, really low without providing the things that the commercial zoned areas desperately need. So we are going to use this IT cluster, where IT cluster actually produces goods. If you look at this, it doesn't specifically say that on here, but everything I'm seeing online says that it does. What it's going to do is going to require fewer workers, which is good. It will free some of our workers up, or have a lower demand, which means our workers are free to do other things, and kind of decrease the discrepancy between open jobs and jobs filled. The tax revenue is a nice bonus. Electricity, we've got plenty of space in our grid. But the big boost to this is it's going to produce a small amount of goods. And not only are these goods going to help our commercial districts out just in general, they do it without traffic. So we're going to turn it on in our downtown areas, and we're just going to have to deal with the buildings looking a little bit taller or a little bit different from what I had originally wanted to do with the area, but it's going to make a big difference for us once this stuff gets going. One thing this is going to do is it's going to delete or cause all the office zoned areas to empty out. And I'm going to pause, and I want to take advantage of some of that because we need to get more residential in here to get more workers for the open jobs and the new industrial that we're going to be building here as well. So when I don't need these zones as a buffer, I can back this out a little ways and place residential in its place. I'm going to do that real quick. Of course, I'm going to leave quite a bit of this office zone because I still need the goods. I don't want to reduce that too much. And there's another area where I want to do something similar over here in Tower Hill, West Grove. I've got this, looks like it was set up as a buffer, but it's not really buffering anything, so I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to change this into high density residential. I'm also going to upzone this to high density residential. Being right by the transit point and being kind of between other high density zones, it makes more sense to me to do it this way. Another thing, if you look, like there's a school right here just surrounded by offices, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So again, it makes more sense to have this as higher density residential in here. And then the low density stuff is out on the outer edge of the town and up here on the hill. I've found if I zone this to industrial, this commercial in here to industrial, it does not go very well. That's a part of a traffic issues in here for sure. But I also don't want all of this commercial demanding resources and taking up, I don't know about space traffic, but I don't want this stuff in here, at least not quite as much of it. So I'm just going to de-zone some of this commercial space and let the game take care of that for me. Probably do the same here. So it'll leave us some views as well. Fill that in with our old brush so that it doesn't look too out of place. Good, good. There's another policy that I can put in that's going to help us a ton. Actually, a couple of them. Go into our policies here. So the name of the game right now is increasing goods production. I go into city planning here. It's industrial space planning. Doubles the amount of goods produced by zoned industry buildings. That is massive. So I'm going to turn that on in some key industrial areas here. And then come down here and look at this Industry 4.0. Increases production output by 50%. I don't know if that's additive or multiplicative. So I don't know if it's increasing it by 50% after the doubling or if it's going to be 1.5 times. But again, awesome. Plus, this will help absorb some of those educated workers into the economy. They won't balk so much at working in these jobs if they're higher paying, skilled jobs. There's a couple more areas I want to do some of this stuff too. I'm going to avoid doing it in the Gulfside Industrial Park. Traffic is bad enough coming out of here without additional trucks coming from these industries, so I'm not going to mess with that. But I will come over here to the service area. We got some work to do in this. So let's redistrict this. This was something that City Planner Plays mentioned in his video of this city. This is residential, and it really doesn't belong there sandwiched in between the service buildings. It doesn't make any sense, and neither does the school once I remove this residential, which is what I'm about to do. So let's get rid of the schools and the park and rezone all this stuff into industrial. And that will include some of this commercial here. This isn't really necessary. We'll leave some of it, but we'll also change some of it out. Hate dezoning any residential, especially replacing it with commercial, but we're going to need more of a buffer between the noxious industrial uses and the residential stuff in here. I'm going to leave this in place. It being coastal, it makes a little bit more sense. Kind of low, cheap apartments for people working in the area. To me, that makes some sense. And then I go into the service district. We're going to go to policies. I'm not going to use Industry 4.0 here because I don't want to crank up the amount of highly educated jobs that I need by too much since I took the policy off of the city proper, especially with the extra demand that the IT cluster is going to have of that. But I can come in and turn on the industrial space planning for sure, and that will help us out a lot. You notice they're not building. That's because we're doing a lot with industrial stuff right now. All the zones that I changed to the IT cluster, having empty office space, that tanks our industrial demand. You see it says no demand for industry or offices. So this is all going to grow in really slowly, which is why I wanted to go ahead and play the game or let the game play while we work on this. So this stuff is going to fill in really slowly. I wanted to build back here, it just isn't really going to work very well, so I'm not going to mess with this space. We're going to have enough of a change as it is with the additional zoning down here. I think we'll be okay, especially because we're going to come back over to Karankawa and add quite a bit of industrial zoning in here. Change out some of this zoning, not all of it, but some of it. Okay, another thing I'm going to do while we're in here, take a look at our water. Sewage treatment's getting really close. I don't want to let that get out of hand. So let's add in another facility back in here. Just going to use that same advanced inland water treatment plant. Really good capacity, not a ton of pollution. And then that opens up a road back here that I can use to get some more zoned industrial on. Ooh, don't like that at all. Go to there, that should be good. That should give us plenty of new industrial production coming out of here. Let's make sure that the area, the zone covers are, yeah, see, that was what I was afraid of. So we want to make sure that that gets all the new zoned buildings in there, or it will just be regular industry instead of the supercharged stuff that we made using the policies in here. Excellent. There's also a warehouse over here. That empty means ship it out of the city right away. I know that there's not much in here as it is, but since it's right next to these sources, the last thing I want is any of this leaving the city. It's never going to hit high enough for the bounce to mean anything, and putting it at filled doesn't help because filled means basically import until it's full. You can't import unique factory products, so setting it to bounce will be fine. Let's just do a quick scan of our zone stuff and see what we might be able to switch out. I don't know that all of this is necessary up here. Having some commercial in here definitely does make sense because it's a place to get a bite to eat while you're at work, on your lunch break or whatever. But I don't think we need quite this volume, and adding to the amount that we're producing is of great importance, of great use to us. So we'll leave some of that intact and get rid of some more. Don't want to mess too much with the stuff that we've got laid down already. I think we'll be good. Once this stuff starts to fill in, it'll start to resolve these issues. So with that going, I'm going to let this run while I work on some other things, and then we'll take a look at the end and see how everything looks, see if our zones have recovered, and we don't have quite so many of these not enough goods things going on. So on to our promised work over here in Old Town. First thing I want to do, it's a lot of industrial, a lot of junk going on back here. When you're at ground level, it'd be nice to be able to screen off some of that, so let's get some fencing in place. Turn everything but angle off so I can get that nice and tight next to the roadway here. And then I'm going to change to the farm fence for the rest of the work that I do. Also want to get in some pathways here. We are going to continue to use the amusement park path with the trees. Just going to put that down as a placeholder so I can get some stuff built in around it. You remember we turned this whole area into a park. That will let me do things like this. Really not helpful having all that stuff on at this point. Back that out. We're going to leave this all as green space and make this place look really good. Let's not forget about changing our trees on the walkway out. And then put our fencing in place like we wanted to. Let's get this roadway stretched out so that it's all a little bit closer. Here. Looks better. Now, we've got to do some things with this space. We can't just leave it open like this. At least I don't want to. Take this cafe, stick it right on the end of the walkway. That'll be a good end to the promenade. Of course, that got rid of our fencing back here. That's okay. We can rebuild that. We're going to place some of these park tiles along here for a big open eating area. Pardon me while I get perfectionist with this. Good. We get some tables, but I want to use the same kind that are in there so that the aesthetic stays the same. And there they are. Let's get those angled. Angled like that, I think. I'll have to move that one a little bit, I think, after we're done placing all of these. Alright, that should be good enough. And then let's give some shade. We gotta remember this is a very warm place, though it's not warm right now. I'm gonna use these and just drop them right down. I am going to have to turn on prop and tree anarchy for this, which is dangerous. So, here's hoping I don't forget to turn it off. If I do, yell at me really loudly and maybe I'll hear you yelling through your screen. I don't want one random white one in here. Of course, now that's all it wants to build. Could probably do the same with the green ones there, or with these. All one uniform color would be better. There we go. Then, of course, being an eating area, we need to have trash cans, so we'll get those in too. Don't want to put them too far back in. It's a lot easier for the workers if they are not crammed back in a corner. And last but not least, we're going to need some lighting. This place is going to be used at night, which I think it probably would. Be more than enough. And I don't like how that looks in the back, so I'm going to cap that off with some planters. This looks nice, but we're not done with this area yet by any means. Now let's use a smaller Mariah, not flowering. I'm going to use our line tool. Let's get the lights back on here. I have to turn Anarchy on here as well, I believe. I'll just manually place a couple that are missing. I'm going to change up the spacing in here as well. I want this stuff to fit perfectly. There we go, that's exactly what I was after. Oh, that works out really nicely all the way across the board. Except for there for some reason. Be fine. That doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Let's cap this off with some of our oak trees here. Give shade over in the corners. And then we'll leave the rest of the space open so that people can enjoy the green space and have a little fun. Awesome. While I'm in here, I want to... there's going to be noise issues in these buildings. Just, it's not something that we're going to be able to remove. I'll show you what's going on. It's because these are really noisy, and so they come all the way across the tracks. Plus, high-density commercial has a tendency to do some of that too. So what we've got is a core of really noisy areas in here. There's a few things I'm going to do to try to mitigate this a little bit. I'm not going to be able to solve it completely, but we can at least reduce the problem some. Some of that's going to be with zoning. We've already got this building complaining. You know what? That's fine. You'll just be residential now instead. Change a couple of these out so that it's not quite so thick with high-density commercial. And that'll reduce the concentration of noise in there without hurting things too much. The buildings are the same, they just don't have signs on them, so I don't think we'll miss it that much. And as it would make sense that there'd be people who would want to live along this too. These would probably all be mixed-use buildings anyway. They'd all be commercial ground floor with either office or residential above, so it makes a lot of sense to me to do it that way. And the other thing that we can do, of course, is put trees down. So let's get our brush out. Use the new, better one. I'm going to turn noise on so we can see if this is doing anything. There we go. Tough to see real time, but it looks like it might be improving it a little bit. Let's see how that looks, if that looks all right. Yeah, I tried to keep them a little bit away from the tracks, so I think we're good on that. And then we've got all this space in between here. I'm going to try and do something with that as well. You don't want to put any roads on there because if I use the non-self-leveling paths, they will be very slanted and awful, sloped and such. If I use the self-leveling paths, it will cause tearing and bad terrain issues behind the buildings between these because these are just at very different heights. So let's go in and take care of some of this. I'm going to use... I want to know if the Content Creator Pack grasses reduce noise at all. They're in with the trees, so they should. So I'm going to try and cram a bunch of these in here. I'm going to use the prop line tool because it's set up for me, so why wouldn't I? I don't want them spaced out that much at all. Let's see, is that close enough? I could even go down a little bit more. Let's do that. Yeah, really cram those in. I'll do a couple of lines of those between all these buildings, and then maybe plant some actual trees as well. Just this place would be a little bit more wild than the surroundings, I would think, being the alleyways. Again, real time, it's tough to say if this is doing any good or not. But we plopped a few down, and hopefully it will improve stuff for us. Let's get a few strategically planted trees in here as well, especially in the more open areas like this. It's a very large oak. Oh, I gotta get in behind here too, apparently. Here. Up there. I'm gonna do this ahead of time here because why not? And then back to our line tool with this. And I think this will look pretty good too, compared to the barren that was back in there before. Just greener and better looking in general. Also now a massive fire hazard, but that's why we have all those, those helicopters. On to more aesthetics. One of the things that City Planner Plays pointed out in his review of the city was that I have things crammed in together a lot of the times. Not always. Quinn Park things are very spread out, nice and open, but then I do things like Delta Park where there's something crammed into every possible open space. And same thing over here in Fort Quinn, this side of the Fort Quinn. This one I've done a great job. It's open, it's really attractive. I wanted this to be like the quiet, more memorial and contemplative side of the park, and this to be, you know, like where things are happening and going on, but it's all crammed in. The detailing work gets lost, and there's just restroom. Why are there restrooms everywhere? There's also, I think, 3 info booths, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. So let's thin some of this stuff out. We don't need all these child amenities. Maybe some, but not nearly as many as there are. And let's make this just look better. I'm putting some thought into what I'm doing. I figure having this plaza at this crossroads makes more sense than having a playground right across from the eating area. Maybe parents will have a place to sit while they keep their eye on their kids over here. And having the restrooms along a better traveled path also makes sense to me. I didn't feel a need to have a million info booths. I think this is cleaned up a little bit. It's not just as crammed full of things. A little bit more open space. Everything that's in here means a little more. See if I can get this flag and slide it. I don't hate it being in here, but I don't necessarily want it where it was. Like I said, this side is fine. I'm going to go take care of Delta Park in much the same fashion. Now, I've been trying to think of where I want to put this light sculpture, because I absolutely love this asset, but this area is, again, crammed full of stuff, and I don't want this to be in this park anymore. Unfortunately, I don't know where I could put it, so I'm just going to nix it for the time being, and we'll see if there's anywhere to bring it back into later. I think what I'm going to do here... I liked having the play area right by here. Let's see if I can grab this stuff. No trees. And then let's plant a couple for shade back here. Use our London plane trees for that, since they're so good at giving us shade without taking up space on the ground. Okay. See, I don't, with the way the terrain is here, I'm not even going to keep this plaza there at all. I like this gazebo being here because I think this would be... And why is my train network stopped? Oh dear, we got a big old jam going down here. There, that tail end of there was causing some problems for us. That should clear the whole thing out. Back to where we were here. I like these gazebos here, though I would rather they be more uniform, so let's bring this one up. This one down here, because I really want one down here. Why I want one down here is because you get a great view of everything that's going on. There's train lines come through here. There's this bridge, the metro bridge. There's just a lot of stuff, and there are people who like to watch trains and cars and things go by, so I figure that would be a very popular place for train spotters, foamers, whatever you want to call them, whatever they want to be called these days. Park this size, we probably just need the one restroom and we're good. So we've got this one over here. Doesn't need an info booth, it's not big enough for that. Gonna move, and I will leave that alone. Doesn't need to be crammed full of stuff to be a good park. And there's still plenty of reasons to go walking around down here. Places to stop and visit. These would have an excellent view of the other side of the city. And a body that's apparently not being taken away. That'll be fine. I can see traffic's flowing, so it's not that kind of an issue. Check on my trains again here. Yeah, I don't like that this length is doing that to me. And this wasn't a problem that I was having before. So I'm not sure why I'm running into it now. I'm just going to clear some of this stuff out, turn despawning on for a moment. And that should let things move. Worst comes to worst, I can fiddle with where these nodes are, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I have other things that I want to work on in this video. So in order to help satisfy our need for residential and fill in this space that's empty for whatever reason, let's do something here. Oh, gotta turn all my guidelines back on. There we go. Perfect. Now we'll zone this up to residential. Let me make my new district first, though. I'm going to change some of this stuff out, too. We don't need that much commercial tucked back in here. This is going to be our new faculty village. And I'm going to change some of the policies that we have in here to simulate what I would expect to see in here. Being this is a technical college, high-tech housing, heavy traffic ban doesn't really make sense. There wouldn't be any reason for them to be coming through there anyway. I'm going to hit ban combustion engine, not because as a city policy we're doing that, but because I would expect teachers to, in a campus atmosphere like this, generally trend towards having that kind of thing, especially when you think of this as a technical school. You'd think that they would be the kind of teacher that'd be super interested in science and showing off that kind of thing. So we'll do really what I want is electric car. Yeah, that's what I wanted. You can come and visit if you have a combustion engine. None of that really applies, so take a look down here. This we definitely do want education boost to be active on. Give them that free Wi-Fi. Book fair doesn't make any sense because there's no libraries in here. No recycling centers either, though they would be recycling for sure, so let's get that policy on as well. Get rid of the commercial here. And last but not least, I'm going to turn on the residential specialization eco stuff, the self-sufficient buildings. Rather than have anything along Blackbeard's cut, I'm going to fence this off so that our zone we can have larger plots to zone, and then I'll do some strategic fencing here on Jolly Roger because I'd rather the larger plots be the ones in here, and I'm certainly going to fence this off. I don't think they'd want to be right backed up to, even though it's a park maintenance building, I don't think they'd want to be backed up to it. I see that I have forgotten prop and tree anarchy. I'm going to fix that. There we go, problem solved. Hopefully there aren't any trees sticking through things in the parks where I was moving stuff around earlier. Don't think I want those to be the forestry fences here either. Let's go with the farm fence again. Trying to get this last space here to fill in. suppose what I could do here is just to slide this out a touch. We made it work. Not sure why this didn't fill in for us. I know what we can do though. We'll just go back and upgrade this road forcibly. There we go. That made it plop into place. Back this off a step. Okay, so now we've got a little bit more of residential in this area. Let's get this corrected. Rename this bit here. I'm not going to worry about over much. Let's get Jolly Roger down to there. Actually, this should be Black Flag instead. That's the better way to do it. And then, yeah, there's 2 Blackbeards Cut and Black Flag Way, but one's just a corner, not an intersection, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Now, the last thing that I want to do here is get a bus line in the faculty area to connect with the rest of campus. Put a stop right there as an interface with that. And we're going to come down here. Now, I'm going to have to make some choices here, I guess. And I'll get into what some of those are as I go. Because I'm going to connect this up with this metro station here. Also, before I forget, let's get this just a little piece of roadway here to give a turnaround. And then we'll grab this and bring it back in. And this will be a place for a turnaround and a bus stop, so they don't have to go all the way across the river, or the creek, the brook, on Corsair. This is going to be a very, very popular route because it's going to get us, that's something I meant to do, back this off. There's no bus route to this park currently, so we're going to add the stop in there. We're going to add one into the stadium here. As long as we're doing this, it just makes sense to have a stop in front of the stadium. Right in front of the metro, and then down here by the dorms, and then mirror it all the way back. This is going to be an incredibly popular bus route, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to say. I say unfortunately because I want it to be quiet, kind of a quiet route coming out of the faculty, just like a shuttle for them to get to work and connect them with the rest of the transit network. But it's not going to work out that way. So I'll have to go into lines to make it into the quiet route that I want without it being a quiet route. I'm going to use this little bus here. It's a 30 capacity. And I'm going to crank up the number of buses. The reason that I'm doing that is because I want to have the small bus feel. I want it to seem like it's just a little shuttle pinging in and out of here, even though there's a ton of people using the line. And that's why I gave it a bunch of buses, was so that it can cover that demand without looking like it's a major route. So let's take a look and see how the city is doing. There's a little bit of this goods complaining going on here. It's another prime candidate for a building switch out, is what I'm seeing. I don't want to do too much of this. I just want to do enough that it kind of thins out the noise, like I said, as well as giving us more residential capacity, because that's very much going to continue to be in demand. If you look, most of the complaints that we have remaining are abandoned rather than needs more goods. Of course, we still have some of this going on, but not as much as we had previously. And there's not a ton of abandonment that you say, oh, well, that's because they all left already. No, it's genuinely looks like it's resolving the problem. It's not completely done yet, and it's going to take it a while before it catches up because it was very behind. Production was way behind where it needed to be. Let's go and take a look at our imports, exports, and see what this looks like. So if we take a look at our imports now, 14,731. That is up from the 14,263 it was at before. But look at the goods percentage compared to, on the right, our previous numbers. Goods were over 75% of all of our imports, and now they're less than that. That means we've taken a big chunk out of that, which is very, very good. And exports, we're now at 6,356 compared to 6,343 before. Almost unchanged, but for sure we made a big dent on the import side. That is a big improvement, and that's why you're seeing the city in a better spot, because we don't have to import quite as many goods as we were doing before. Wait. Mars from the future here. And we forgot to do something. Well, I forgot to do something that I talked about early on in the episode. So before we close this thing up, there's something I have to take care of. If you'll notice, I forgot to tie the rail line in. And that's fairly important because even though it's doing okay right now, we don't want this harbor area to get super backed up. And it pretty much absolutely does. I mean, if you look, there are definitely some traffic issues going on here already. It's not great. So let's get this into place. I think this will relieve some of that traffic and help things out here immensely. So what I'm going to do is pause because I'm going to break this line and I don't want to screw with the rail network at the moment. I'm going to pull this back and I'm going to draw this line in, tie it in way over here. And that's going to take some work. We'll be able to get this in place here really quickly. I just have to get a line set up here. I want to turn this on so I can see where my terrain is. Yeah, see already, I'm going to do a lot of leveling with this because it's going to need it. That's all. And our network multi-tool to slope this part out. We can go all the way back to there. I want to change the track to be the same. That's in the content creator pack. Just go to that. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, so back we go, and let's get this sorted out. And then we'll fill in this depression here. Keep that small so I can grab that height. And we can increase it. And then we'll smooth the remainder out. There, perfect. And that crosses that very nicely. We're going to continue straight on at this same height. And I think the way we're going to do that is I'm going to start right here. Anarchy across. And let's upgrade this. And then use move it. Select these 3 nodes. And then do object height right there. That is not going to cut it. I was hoping that would be high enough, but it definitely is not. So let's go up as high as we need to go. And I can use these oncoming semis to know exactly how high I need to be. Yeah, giving them some clearances for the best. Yeah, since these are higher. Ooh, we're actually, this road here is higher than this one. So if we're keeping these all the same, I need to come up even more. And if you'll notice, even though this node is centered here, it didn't give us a pillar. And I don't like that. I'm going to slip this over to the center, and I'm going to move it to copy this and drop a support in place. And now that's pretty unreasonable having it like that on the side of the highway without a fence or a wall or anything, so let's get something small in place there. What I'm going to use is something I used in another part of town. Let me go grab it. I know exactly where it is. And you get to see the detailing that I did earlier in the build. Whoops, I went too far. I say I know exactly where it is. I forgot where I was. Okay, so we want the bike bridge over here. So that pedestrian bridge is very popular. And then we've got this bike bridge, and look what I did at the end. Because I didn't think it was reasonable to have these bikes coming down a slope right into that without any sort of protection, so I put some barrels here. I was just using these, calling those, it says they're industrial, but to me they're the safety barrels like you see on the side of the highway. That's kind of what I was using them for. And we'll do the same thing over here. And I'll have to turn prop anarchy on again. And we'll do the same thing over here. To the extent the game will let us. Come on. To me, that seems more reasonable. You would expect there to be some sort of protection in place for vehicles that might just get slightly off the road so that they wouldn't hit that full speed ahead without any protection. Alright, now let's get these things hooked up. Get things rolling again. That's going to cut our power, so hold on. Pausing again. I like the way that's coming out. It's a little better. Okay, on we go. Now to tie in here and have it look nice, I'm going to use our parallel road tool again. I'm going to do that from here. I can tie into. I want that to come all the way out here. Let's tie this in. Go back to slope tool. Ooh. I'm just gonna upgrade that. Do not want to have to do that. Makes the slope a little bit nicer. And we'll, yeah. I think this probably higher than necessary here, so I can bring this down a little bit while still leaving quite a bit of room for vehicles to get through. Yeah, that's probably fine. As a matter of fact, I might even be able to include this node in my slope here. Let's see what that does. Worst that'll happen is I have to back it out. Might be a little bit tight here, but it's okay. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'd rather have this in place. Just get on with it kind of thing. This is elevated and I don't want it to be down here. So let's get that on the ground. Do the same here. Let's slide this in, shall we? And then we'll redo our sloping here. I just really want this to be ground level before it has the bridge over there, just for aesthetic purposes. I like these lining up like they do quite a bit. We have to tie this in to our existing network again, like so. Now, this on its own, as I remember my prop anarchy, would be a big help. But we're not going to stop here because we have a really good opportunity. There's an interchange right here and a road right nearby. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult to get this in place, but we'll be able to do it. So I'm going to copy another station because I hate not being able to place them except right along roadways. So we'll use move it, grab that station, and copy it. And I want to line the left side of this up with these other nodes so that it looks like it's crossing the bridge, or crossing the road the same way as these two are. And then we'll have to play with the height, obviously. Terrain height. And there we go. We're going to use this node here and do some adjusting to make these look a little bit more parallel. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough? Yes. I want this up a little bit though. And we'll get this tied in here. I want to use my parallel road tool because I don't want to tie this in immediately. It needs to have a little bit of space. We'll have to use some fencing here as well. Okay. You might be wondering how we're going to get tied into here. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to use one of our narrow roads. One way, one lane, no parking. Good enough for me. I'm going to tie it in here. And first I think I should probably run a line parallel to this. Road guideline. Perfect tie in here. Now we're going to get the directionality of this all fixed up. It's going to be a minute. Now in order for this to work, I've got to go straight for a little while. Let's call it 10 units. And then we're going to go curved road tool. Out 10. Down 10. Out 10. Over 10. I know this is ugly right now. It'll be cleaned up significantly. As a matter of fact, I don't want these curves to be so big and sweeping. It's not necessary. I like having that straight piece to go under the tracks here. So we'll go out 6, down 6, straight to there, then another. Directly tie that right back in. Now use our slope tool to go from here, here, hold shift to get the underground piece. Actually, I don't need the underground because this lot is so much lower down here. I can do that, and that'll sink that for me and keep it at a beautiful, beautiful grade. I could probably even tunnel some more of this. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's upgrade. There we go. And I'm going to, I think I'm going to bring this node up to be even height with this rather than have the slope start now. And then I go back into this and let's clean that up. Slope tool from here. Go here, go all the way to here. Man, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Cool. That works out really nicely. And then for directionality, we're going to switch everything around. I want it to queue this direction, so it's got a ton of queue space. Oops, I am doing this wrong. Right click, not left click. I was doing fine. Okay, so now that should loop around perfectly. Need to hook this up to electricity, which is easy enough. That right there. And we'll have to get water down here too. And we need a name for this. Considering this is the fort area, it's Cavalry Loop. And safety says we'll need to fence some of this stuff in. Yeah, good enough. Be fine over here. I do want to fence this in once I need to tie it in. And then we'll fence this off too. Okay. Now this should be fully functioning. It'll be a little bit of a pressure relief valve for this side of the city. It'll allow goods to get into here more quickly. And I actually built this in a test run, and what I saw was some of the stuff gets shipped along the rail line and then taken from here by truck out of town, which I thought was very interesting. You'd thought it would have... I'm sure some of it continues out of town on the regular rail line, but some of the trains will stop here, and then a truck will come off, get onto the interstate. Very interesting. Matter of fact, let's see if we can see some of that in action. Yep, you can see there's trucks coming in to load up. Well, there's not a truck. There must be somebody coming to work. Yeah, it doesn't look like we've got any traffic pointed at it just yet, but it'll happen. Matter of fact, I'll let it run for a second. We'll watch it happen. We're having some slowdowns by this node. That tells me we've got two nodes that are too close together here. Let's see if we can't get that cleaned up. Oh, it doesn't look like they're super close. Still. Back that one off a little bit, maybe? Yeah, that fixed it. No, there's no slowdowns here now. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely have seen... There we go. Now you can see what I was talking about. Looks like there's trucks that leave this station and then go out of town on the interstate. Why they would do that when there's a rail line that connects to that same area, I don't know. But that's what's happening. And here we go. We got a rail cargo coming in from here. Where are you going, buddy? It may or may not be stopping at this station. Tying this line in opened up a lot of things for us. Including opening up some extra passenger options. Because now the central station is able to get passenger access from the southeast. Yeah, it's coming to this station right here, it looks like. Cool. Yeah, if you look at how much better this looks. Just that one complaint of not enough goods. So, come in from this way. You can come down here. This is a passenger station. This one does not have intercity access. I wanted to restrict that to this, but you can get there from the east side. So this is going to become a more popular station now, I think, which is good. There's also a passenger station right here that would have access to. Again, it doesn't allow intercity, but this has some lines going from here to here. I believe these have lines between each other as well, which means that those people getting in from the southeast can just pop right over there if they want, if they're coming by train. And we've got a train coming in from here. What are you doing? So that's coming from this terminal over here. Let's see what this does. More cargo coming in from the southeast. Yeah, it looks like the same deal. It's exporting those products, stopping here instead of continuing on out of town. I'm not sure why it does that. I guess it prefers the road, or maybe the rail doesn't go out of town to where they're trying to get to. Doesn't matter. It's providing some relief for our road network, and that was the point of the exercise. Looks like things are going smoothly enough down here. I think we are in a great spot. I hope you enjoyed today as much as I did. I'm glad we got this taken care of. It's a big relief to me after how much I had to fight the city to get all this to work. So I hope that you guys learned as much as I did about fixing this issue if it crops up in your builds. Thank you so much for joining me. Like and subscribe if you feel that I've earned it. And as always, enjoy the ride.